Okay, hello everyone, and welcome to Toggle3D's product livestream series. This is the first sort of live stream that we're doing with this new series, but it will be something that's now going to be reoccurring every week or so, depending on sort of the feedback that we get from you guys. But the purpose of this live stream is really to teach our users more about the product, more about the features and how to use them, and then ultimately to get you to love the product as much as we do here on the product team that are building it. So for today's live stream, type of content that you can expect. So today we'll be doing kind of a getting started with Toggle3D Pro free trial. And then next week, we'll kind of dive more into the advanced features of the platform, specifically the material template. But today we'll do like a nice overview of the platform, the basic and the advanced pro features, kind of get to know how the product is set up and kind of a nice overview to get you started. Especially now that we've launched Toggle3D as a 14-day pro free trial for everybody, we want to make sure that you're taking advantage of these features and really getting to know them in these 14 days. So we encourage everybody to ask questions during this live stream. I'm going to try to monitor both my screens here. Bear with me, but I am going to try to make sure that I answer anybody's questions that are coming in. Okay, so I guess the last thing I'll say before I jump into today's live stream is that these will also be recorded. And the goal is to post them so you'll be able to refer back to them at any point of time as you're going through Toggle, but also learning more about Toggle. Okay, without further ado, let's jump into today's session. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. Okay, here we are. So welcome to Toggle3D. So as soon as you sign up, this is going to be the first page that you see of the platform. In this page, you'll see our projects. Currently, Toggle has two different types of project templates you can take advantage of. The first one is texturing your 3D model, and then the second one is generating materials. You'll see any recent projects that you've made here that will start filtering in. And then also the tutorial section, which I do want to point out is in the home page, but is also in this side menu right here. So you're able to reference it at any point in time in case you need help diving deeper into one of the features. We also have the projects page. The projects page is going to load any of your designs, also any of your export statuses, and it'll also load all of your uploads. What we also have here is the product updates, kind of little pop-up here. This is going to tell you any new features that were released into the platform, any kind of updates that we have there to report to you. And then also we have the help and feedback form right here. So if you do run into a question, you need some support, you found a bug, you have a new feature that you'd like added onto the platform, we'd love to hear from you. And we encourage you to submit any questions you can have through this form here. So now that we kind of know how to navigate through Toggle, I'm going to go ahead and jump into our first template here, which is texturing a 3D model. On the Pro plan, you can make as many projects as you would like. And something else that I would like to point out about the Pro plan is our upload file limit. So here, we're allowing Pro users to upload upwards of 150 megabytes and kind of get started from there. So we have here your own uploads. Any uploads that you've had in the past, some sample assets, and then also a Sketchfab integration. So I won't go into the Sketchfab today, but something that I would like to point out is kind of the ability to pull assets from Sketchfab and publish back as long as you have a Sketchfab account. So we are going to go here and upload our asset. So I'm uploading a step file. This is really the bread and butter of Toggle. What we really specialize in is allowing users to bring in step files, kind of other CAD file formats onto the web, convert them into a 3D mesh, and then ultimately be able to have a version of your 3D file that is web-friendly, that you can view in AR, you can export to other platforms and in other formats, and then obviously repurpose for kind of these AR, VR experiences that we're really seeing kind of on the rise of popularity. So I'm going to go ahead and upload it. This is going to go straight to our converter. Our converter is going to do a few things. So it's going to separate the model into parts. it's going to mesh these parts. So because I uploaded a step file, which is a CAD file, it's actually going to do that quad conversion for me. So I'm going to get a nice quad mesh. For those that haven't heard of quad meshing before, it's basically the highest sort of quality of topology that you can get for a mesh. And so we are able to offer that exciting feature for our pro users for any CAD files that get uploaded. So after we do that quad meshing, we're going to put your model back together. We're going to generate a thumbnail there so you can reference it, and then it's going to be populated into our screen here. The models that are uploaded, there also will be UV unwrapped, whether it's a CAD file or not. If you do not have a UV map on your mesh, we will go ahead and UV unwrap any parts of your mesh that don't have it. And UV unwrapping is really that necessary piece to actually be able to apply textures to your 3D models. So we got you covered there. Okay, so I have my conversion here, and I also have my first question. Would we consider adding a store where Toggle users can monetize their work, buy and sell their designs? Yeah, so the goal with Toggle eventually, especially with our community, is to have that community page where users will be able to publish in the community, share their work, share any 3D models that they texture, any materials they make, and kind of be able to have a monetization strategy that goes with it. So we've definitely been considering it. Not quite there yet, but we definitely have that in mind. Okay, awesome. So we have our model here in our Toggle viewer. The first thing that I'd like to point out is the lighting template, because the lighting panel that we have right here is really going to affect the way that your mesh looks in the viewer. So since this mesh is a little bit of a lighter color, I'm going to go ahead and choose a dimmer lighting environment. We have a bunch of different presets here for you, anything from light to dark to kind of sunrise and everything in between. They are all preset, and you're also able to view the HDRI environment maps as well if you're interested. The reason that lighting is very important is because Toggle3D uses PBR materials, and PBR materials are really quickly becoming the kind of the standard among 3D modeling. Because these PBR materials will actually react to light as they would in the physical world. So lighting becomes really important, and you'll see sort of as we're applying materials to the model here, I'll kind of show you what those materials look like in different lighting conditions so you can see how the colors and the properties really do change. Okay, so once my mesh gets uploaded here, as I mentioned, it's going to be separated into parts. This is really important because it's going to allow you to do that very easy flow of just point and click texturing. Selecting a part, I'm opening a pre-built library that's within Toggle. We have over 1,600 PBR materials to offer. They're all pre-made, they're all very high quality. And we have multiple different categories. So we have anything from bricks to fabrics. We even support glass. That is definitely a challenge, I'll tell you, in the 3D world, but we have that support in Toggle. We have leathers, we have metals, we have plastics, rocks, and we go all the way over to wood. So I'm just going to showcase a few of these really great materials that we have to offer already in our pre-built library. Any material that you pick, it gets applied right away to that part that you had selected. You can kind of see it, maneuver it here, and adjust its properties. So what we're essentially doing is we're giving you this kind of pre-built version of the material, but we're also giving you these settings that you can go ahead and use to edit your material. So we'll have a future live stream all about how you can really edit the material, go into it, kind of check out what all these knobs do. For the purposes of this overview, I'm just going to show you that they're there. And I'll just kind of play around with a few of them. So we have like a scaling function here that will let you sort of change the scale of the pattern, all of the different material property knobs. You can change it as well to kind of control the roughness and glossiness levels, the normal levels. We have the color, so you can go ahead and change the color of any of the materials as well, and the same sort of advanced settings for the colors. So again, the purpose here is, here's a base material, here's some easy knobs for you to work with, and you can really edit and maneuver the material to get it to that desired look that you're going for. So that's a marble there. I'm also going to go ahead and apply some wood. I'm going to go and apply the wood actually to all of the legs that I know will need wood. And go to my wooden category here. So wood is also something else that's very sort of challenging in 3D modeling world. So we do offer quite a few different wooden fabrics, or different wood textures to choose from, and fabrics as well. And so you're able to, sort of maneuver through all of these, check out what they look like. You're able to see a preview of all of these kind of up close before you even apply to the model, and you'll see the resolutions that it comes in as well. Something important to note is that when you're working in Toggle, all the resolutions will always be in 1K in your editor. The reason we do this is for performance, but that is also why we have a preview function. So the preview is going to let you to jump between resolutions. So you're able to see what your model looks like in 1K, 2K, and 4K, as long as the material exists in those resolutions. And then you're also able to generate the QR code in order to view your model in AR. So I'm going to do that here. You're able to generate this as many times as you would like, and this is another pro feature. So I'm just going to leave this on the screen for a few seconds in case anybody wanted to scan that QR code and give it a try. Awesome. So that's kind of what Toggle is really good at, is that you're able to quickly change your materials, quickly change the settings of it, preview it, see it in AR. And then something else that we allow is that once you're happy with your model and you're ready to share it, we do have the sharing function over here. We have two different types of sharing modes, and then obviously we have the publish to Sketchfab, as I mentioned before. But the two biggest differences, so your private share link, this is going to be essentially your Toggle viewer without any of the editing capabilities. This is really helpful to share with your colleagues, any stakeholder that you're working with. It's a quick share link, anybody can open it. And that's kind of, you'll always have that functionality. But what our pro users have is they also have the public link. The public link is really cool because using this link right here, you're able to share the viewer of your model, but you're also able to share the AR experience that comes with your model. And then you also get an embed code. And this embed code can be used for websites, other applications, sort of anywhere where you want to go ahead and just embed that 3D model directly there. We actually supply you an iframe that you can do that with. The other really cool thing with the public link is that it's actually also acting as a magic link. Essentially what that means is I can paste this link once anywhere, let's say my website, and I never have to replace it. So I can actually go back to Toggle, update my 3D model, and publish my changes, which is kind of why you see this button here. And it's going to change automatically this link here to support the new version of your 3D model. So that's really helpful for those scenarios where you just paste that link, you never have to go back to it again. So that is another pro feature that we offer. Awesome. So I did tell you I was going to go back to that lighting library, so let's go ahead and do that. And I just want to show you kind of how much the model and the materials change when you go through the different lighting preferences. And that's sort of the magic of these PBR materials, is you will see them react to the HDRI scene. Okay, awesome. So that is our texture 3D model. But let's say that you are in a scenario where you either can't find the material you're looking for in our pre-built library, or you're looking to prototype through a few different materials and you don't have that kind of image available. And you want to be able to generate your own PBR material. This is where our AI material generation template really shines. And this is another pro template altogether. So none of these features are accessible unless you're in pro. Awesome. Okay, so for the purposes of today's demo, since we're kind of doing an overview, I'll briefly talk about the use case for each of these different generation methods, and then I'll hop into this last one here, which is really kind of our best example of generative AI. on the platform today. So the first material generation method from a swatch, this is going to be used when you already have a high quality image and you want to change that image into a PBR material. So what we're going to do for you is layer on those different PBR maps on top of your image to give you that realistic sort of look that's going to react to your lighting and kind of give you that nice finish. Then we have the second generation method, which is from expansion. This is when you don't have a big enough swatch of your texture, but rather you're extracting a texture from, let's say, a product photo, and you want to expand this small crop into a large texture and then apply those PBR maps and create that PBR material. And then we have our material generation from a text prompt. This is where generative AI really does its magic. So we're going to play around with a few examples here. This is really great for prototyping, as I mentioned. So let's say that you are looking for a new material that your product can come in, or you didn't find the material that you're looking for in our library, or you just want to kind of prototype through a few different variations. You're able to go ahead and describe your text prompt here. So I'm just going to go ahead and do a wool fabric, red and brown. You pick seamless or marked, and you go ahead and generate it. This is where our AI is doing its magic. It's going to give you 4 variations of what it thinks is a red and brown wool fabric. You see it takes a couple seconds there, and you get 4 different variations. You're able to apply that variation on the cube. Check out what it looks like. All of these materials initially get generated in 512. So you're able to really quickly iterate sort of between the text prompt. You can kind of run this text prompt through a few times to kind of, really make sure that you're getting what you're looking for, because you are sort of communicating with the AI here on the other side. So sometimes, it takes a couple of generations to really get what you're looking for, but you get 4 variations of it each time. So let's say you're happy with something like this. You have your editing properties. So you're able to go ahead and do those same edits that we saw on the texture 3D model template, such as change the metallic properties, the roughness, the normal intensity. You're able to kind of do something similar with the colors, so change the brightness, the contrast, the saturation. And then the really cool thing, kind of the next AI feature that we had released just last week actually, is the material resolution. So this feature is actually called 4K AI texture upscaling. And what it lets you do is change this resolution, which you see here is currently 512, and upscale it to 4K. So I'm going to actually launch that process, and then I'll kind of talk to you guys a little bit more about it, because it was released in beta. It may take sort of 60 to 90 seconds to complete the upscaling, but it is well worth it. So I definitely want to make sure we're able to showcase that today. What's going on here is that it's taking your 512 patch that was generated initially with the AI, and not only is it increasing the resolution to be 4K, but it's actually adding some of the missing details that you might not be able to see in a 512 resolution. And that is what makes this really, really powerful. And sort of once it's done upscaling, it almost looks like you can sort of touch, in this case, the woolen fabric right off of your computer screen. So it is really, really impressive. We are working on optimizing this time. So if you check back in with us in about a week or so, you'll actually see this time get reduced by 3 times. And that will kind of make things a lot quicker. But what you'll see is the upscaling is going to end, and then I'll show you kind of jumping back between 512 and 4K so we can really tell the difference of this. I do see a couple more questions. I'm going to turn my attention to the chat. Awesome, some comments here as well. And then we have, okay, let me actually jump back to this, and then I'll show you, I'll answer this last question here. Okay, so let's zoom into this material. Look at those fabrics, that fabric right there. So you can see those missing threads being added. So just check in here what the 4K looks like, and then we're gonna downscale to 512. Look at that. So those kind of lines of white, I guess knitted sort of texture, those loose pieces of fabric, you can't even see them here in the 512. And then once you see it in the 4K, they're there. So you see quite a bit of depth added into the material, see a little bit more details added into the material. And I don't know about you guys, but I feel like I know what this material feels like if I was to go ahead and touch it right now. So that is really kind of the power of this AI upscaling feature and why it's so worth the wait. So as I mentioned, we will be working on the time of that AI upscaling. And so right now our recommendation is do all your tweaks to your material, kind of figure out what material you like best, and then go ahead and upscale it right before you're ready to save it to your library. Anything that you save here will come up into the material library. So the material library that we saw earlier in the texture 3D model template, you're going to see all of these materials added there too that you create. Awesome. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and save that material there, and I'll show you where it appears. So you see my material here. But now I'm going to maneuver back to my model, and I'll just show you sort of where it can be found in the material library. So once I'm in my material library here, you have a category here called My Materials. And then that's where you see all of the materials that you've created before, and you're able to apply them to your 3D model. So not sure I've ever seen a woolen table before, but cool to prototype through. Something else that I'll mention about this template before I go back here is that exporting. So I did share earlier that you can share your projects. You can also export your projects. I'll go right here. So for exports, we allow a variety of different export formats, anything from GLB, FBX, OBJ, DAE, STL, and of course your GLTF. We allow you to pick through different resolutions. Specifically, we're referring here to the texture resolutions. And then baking. Baking is another pro feature here. Essentially, it's going to combine all of your material maps into one, which is really going to improve the size of your file when you export it. So it's going to make it much smaller, much more compact, and it'll benefit for any sort of the viewer use cases thereafter. So if you're trying to upload this to the web, upload it to another viewer, use it for AR, VR, this baking function is going to become really handy because it's going to decrease the size of your output quite a bit. Okay, I'm gonna jump back to that question that I didn't get a chance to answer here. Will some materials be sponsored, meaning the material has a company logo next to it if a Toggle user likes this design? That yes, yeah, actually, so there are quite a few use cases around Toggle. And we've mentioned before, but our primary target market really is those manufacturers with CAD files that they manufacture their own product, and then there's some usually sort of custom design work that has to happen kind of before it gets sold, right? So we really, really like that B2B custom manufacturing use case. And in that industry, what we learned is that you'll have your manufacturers, and then those manufacturers will usually have their vendor sponsors. And like those vendors that they're working with, they're going to provide them textures or kind of materials ultimately that they can use for their kind of their product, or like kind of the end thing that they're manufacturing. So, and that I mean, I say product, but that also applies pretty much the exact same flow applies to architectural services as well. So you'll have people, for example, design the building, the shed, the tiny home, and then they actually have vendor partners that will kind of supply the roofing materials or the siding or the garage materials and stuff like that. So we're definitely starting to get into those use cases and starting to have those conversations, and what it's actually going to end up looking like from kind of a business point of view, but also for an individual contributor's point of view is that the material library is going to start getting added with private collections. And these private collections are going to be accessible only to our pro users. And those private collections of materials will actually have sort of a real vendor behind them. So if you put this wool on your table and you like it and you want to go ahead and kind of proceed with it, you'll actually be able to know who to communicate to actually purchase that wool and apply it to your product. Of course, maybe the AI generation kind of not as applicable, but any of the pre-built materials in the library for sure. Awesome. Okay, well, we're 25 minutes in. Those are all of the overview features that I had for you today. As I mentioned, next live stream, we're going to go ahead and showcase more about the material template. That is a template that's only available for our pro users, and it is quite powerful when it comes to generating PBR materials, depending on your input. It has decreased the workflows of a lot of the users that are already on Toggle that we've been talking to in terms of how long it used to take them to make materials and how long it takes them to make materials now. So very excited to jump into it next week. Otherwise, thank you everybody for your questions, and I hope you enjoyed our first live stream series.